last part I talked about the Firefox profile. We'll come over to the Firefox profile again when we talk about SSL handling and all later on, fine. And Chrome driver along with iDriver, they don't implement this kind of profiling. Only Firefox driver implements this kind of profiling. Sorry, the Firefox browser implements this kind of profiling. Let's move further on, and now I will explain you how to actually work with the elements on a page. Suppose I am going to a page and I want to write something in that page. Suppose there's a link on the page, I need to click on it and all. So for that you need to understand a little bit about HTML language, fine, and how Selenium it identifies the components on the page using the HTML language. If you are serious and keen enough to learn Selenium, then I would recommend you to go through a tutorial online. Just go through this tutorial, HTML tutorial once, okay, because this thing is very helpful in learning Selenium, because Selenium actually works on HTML code of your site. What do you mean by HTML code? On the page, if you right click and click on view page source, you get the HTML code of that particular page. It's not a very tough language, it is very easy. Only thing is you need to give a little bit of time, 1 to 2 hours to it. You will understand. If you learn HTML, then learning Selenium will be very easy for you. Fine. What you need to do is that the first thing is that you need to install a tool called Firebug in your browser. Okay, it's like an inspection tool which helps you to investigate your page. You go to Google and type download Firebug. Okay, go to the first link and click on this button, add to Firefox. Make sure that you open the link in Firefox. Firebug gets added inside your Firefox browser as an add-on. Fine. And what it does is actually it helps you to investigate your page. I'll just explain you. Fine. What I'll do is I'll create an Excel file called HTML components.xls. Okay, now this is the Firebug which got installed on your system. I'll come over to that Excel file again. Okay, once Firebug is installed, you will have this icon on the top right of the window out here. Out here you will have this icon. Fine. You click on this icon and you will get a panel like this at the bottom of your page. Fine. Hold on, let me improve the text size. Fine. In this panel, what you get is actually the HTML code of the page. There is an arrow out here. There is an arrow sign in the panel on the left side. If you click on that arrow and you move your mouse on the page, you are able to investigate the page source very easily with Firebug. For example, I go to the website gmail.com. Alright, and on this website I open up the panel, Firebug panel, Firebug which I just installed, and I move my mouse over the username text field. So this is the code, the HTML code for the username text field. Okay, now similarly if you look at the password text field, this is the HTML code for password text field. The sign in button, this is the HTML code for sign in button. So knowledge of HTML is quite important to recognize the elements in Selenium. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do right now. So there are 3 things which I'll put up over here. the name of the component, and the tag name, and mandatory attributes. I'll tell you what all this means. One minute. Okay. Now every HTML component, whether it is a button, if it is a link, if it is a text field, select box, anything. Okay. All the HTML components have a tag name associated with them. Okay. So what are the HTML components which you deal with regularly? You deal with input box. Okay. You do deal with the radio button. You deal with the checkbox. Fine. You deal with the normal button on the page. Okay. What all do you deal with? You deal with the link. You deal with links. Then you deal with images. Then you have select boxes or drop lists. Okay. Fine. So these are the general HTML components which are present on the web page, right? And yes, there is text as well, right? Apart from these, there are some hidden things like frames are there, then web tables are there, which are not visible to the normal eye. Okay, so I'll just talk about these things right now. Okay, now every attribute over here, if you look at Gmail page, fine. This is the line representing the input field of username. Okay, everything. For example, this text over here. Okay, this text is present in a tag called P. Fine. This button over here. This button is having the code starting from the tag name input. So every HTML component has a tag name. Always remember, every HTML component has a tag name. For example, the input boxes, they have the tag name called input. The tag name is just after the conical bracket, input. Alright, so the tag name in case of input box is input. In case of a radio button, right, or a checkbox, suppose this is the checkbox, stay signed in is a checkbox. This is the code for a checkbox. The tag name for a checkbox is also input. And from my experience, I know that for the radio button also, the tag name is input. And for the sign in button as well, the tag name is input. So all of these have the same tag names. For a link, the tag name is A, anchor tag. If you investigate any link on the page, for example, can't access your account, if you investigate this link, all the links in this, or in all the web applications have the tag name called A, anchor tag. Okay. Images have the tag name img. For example, this image over here. This image has the tag name img. Okay. Then drop lists, the select list box, it's having the tag name as select. I know it, right? So link, images, droplets, input box, radio, checkboxes, buttons. So all of them have a different tag name. Some of them have same tag names as well, right? And text. Text comes inside the tag name para sometimes. Sometimes it comes inside div. Sometimes it comes inside label. Right, so you cannot actually categorize text. Okay, now there is a tag called div as well, which is used a lot. It's known as a division. It actually breaks the page inside various segments. For example, you see this segment over here, the big box having username, password, and all. It's actually a division, a div tag. So div means a division on the page. It's a CSS thing, fine. So div tag also is at lot of places in the page. It signifies divisions on the page. The page is divided into various divisions, and those divisions have got HTML components in them. Okay, the text also, it sometimes it's there in the division, sometimes it's there in the label para tag, or sometimes in a span tag. So there are various tags. There is just not just one tag which can generally categorize the text. Okay, so this is about the tag name. Every HTML component has a particular tag name, and Selenium identifies these components on the basis of the tag names, right? Now there are some mandatory attributes along with the tag. For example, the input box has a tag name input, radio button has a tag name radio, checkbox has the tag name input, button has the tag name input. So sorry, every HTML component over here, these four have the same tag name. So how do we differentiate between them? Every HTML component, for example, the username text field has a tag name, but along with it there are other attributes. For example, ID email, type text, value blank, name email, spell check false. These are known as the attributes of the particular tag. For example, the tag name over here is label, and class equals to remember is the attribute. Right? Out here strong is the label, strong is the tag name, and class equals to remember label is known as the attribute. Right? So these attributes over here in the email field, okay, out of all these attributes, in case of an input box, the type equals to text attribute is mandatory. Okay, so if I write type equals to text, it makes it an input box. Fine. So out here, the mandatory attribute is type equals to text. In case of a normal button, for example, the sign in button over here, this thing has the type attribute again mandatory. Rest all of them are optional, but you will always find the type attribute. Type equals to submit means that it is a button. Fine. Checkbox, the type attribute is equal to checkbox. You can verify this by investigating this checkbox. You see that this is the checkbox, the type is checkbox. Fine. And in case of radio buttons, the type attribute is equal to radio. It's always there. Okay. So Vishnu, I'll come back to this question. Right. Now in case of links, right, the tag name is A, but the links they have an attribute called the href attribute, which will always be there with a link, and this href attribute points towards the URL which will open when you click on that link. For example, the link new features, or okay, it's not having this. Hold on. For example, the link learn more. This learn more link has got an href attribute which is pointing towards this URL. So href attribute in a link, it points towards the URL to which the link is pointing. Okay. The images, in case of an image, right, you will always get an attribute called src. src will be an attribute which will point towards the image location. Okay, the place where the image is coming from. So image has an attribute called src, which points towards the location of the image on the server, the source of the image. In case of a drop list, if I open up a drop list, suppose I am on the site quicker.com. and I have an drop list like this. Fine. If I try to investigate this drop list, then the tag name is select. There is no mandatory attribute for a drop list. Okay, in case of a drop list, there is no mandatory attribute, but in a drop list has a tag name called select. Okay, in this select tag, you have got various option tags inside the select tag, and each option tag holds the option which is visible in the drop list. Okay, always remember this. And in the end, the select tag closes. Okay, in the end, the select tag, it closes over here. Fine. So this is what the select tag is about, the drop list. There are no mandatory attributes for this. Now somebody is asking me a question that sometimes the drop list, it comes in the div tag. For example, a website like this, flipkart.com. Sorry. Hold on. Let this site open up. Yeah. If you look at this drop list, okay, then this is not an HTML drop list. Okay, it will not have a select tag inside it. This is something having span and div tags and all inside it. This is not a drop list. Okay, this looks like a drop list because the developer was very smart for this website. Okay, it's just a combination of tags, right? Alert pop-ups and all, they don't. I will talk about them later on. So I will not talk about them at this particular stage. Okay, I will talk about them later on. Alerts and pop-ups and all, right? So fine. So these are the generic things or the components which are present in the page. Besides these, you have got frames and tables, and we will be discussing these topics later on. Okay, we will not discuss them right now. So basically, I told you the elements have name, they have a tag, and they have set of mandatory attributes. Okay, and there are some optional attributes as well. Right. Now, how do I identify an element with Selenium? That's the main question. Okay, how do I identify an element based on Selenium? Selenium completely works on the code of the page. That is the source code of the page. Alright, suppose the simplest question is that I need to go to gmail.com and I need to write my username over here. Okay, that's the problem, suppose. So I create the Firefox profile and all, I start that profile and I write over here WebDriver driver equals to new Firefox driver. Fine, and I write over here driver.get http gmail.com. Now after going to Gmail, I need to write something in the username field. Okay, now if you look at this carefully, if I go back to the documentation, the Java docs, and I look at the WebDriver interface out here, then in the WebDriver interface there is a function called find element. Okay, since this is there in WebDriver interface, all the drivers, Firefox, IE and all, everybody will be implementing this. So you write over here driver dot find element. It will find an element on the page. Okay. Now, by which criteria can I find an element? Okay. The criteria are defined by an inbuilt class inside WebDriver known as by. The by class inside WebDriver, it actually defines the criteria. So if you click on the by class over here, this is the by class. The find element function takes in the argument of the by class reference. Okay, you click on by class over here, and you will see the various criteria by which you can identify element: by class name, CSS selector, ID, link text, name, partial link text, tag name, XPATHS. So we'll be studying all these criteria. Okay, so you can directly write by dot. By is the inbuilt class, and this class has got everything static. So if everything is static inside the class, I told you right previously that static things can be accessed directly without creating the object. So if I write by dot, I get all those criteria over here. Okay, class name, CSS selector, ID, link text, name, partial link text, and all everything. Okay, question being asked is that we have to select Firefox profile before we launch the driver using the instance. It's not mandatory to select a Firefox profile, but I prefer doing that every time. Okay, I prefer doing that. You can omit this code as well if you want. Don't create your profile, right? But what's the advantage of Firefox profile is that sometimes you are testing, suppose, and suppose you don't have a Firefox profile. What will happen? Selenium will open its own profile. That profile will not have Firebug inside it. Okay, the profiles which we like, Firebug is the screen like this we were studying, right? Now, if some error comes up while running the script on certain page, so you will not be able to investigate the error on the browser which was opened by Selenium. So if you actually want to investigate the browser which is opened by Selenium, you should have Firebug inside that browser. So you can create a profile, install Firebug in it, and start that profile, so that when that profile starts, the Firefox instance starts, in that profile you will actually have the Firebug installed. Okay, question is, how interface is helpful in just clearing methods? Interface is helpful because it gives us a structure. Just by looking at the WebDriver interface, you will come to know what all functions are there in this whole interface, and all these classes will be implementing the interface. So you will know the same functions will be there in these classes as well. It gives a structure to your application. What if we don't have interface? Then maybe Android driver will implement its own functions, Chrome will implement its own functions, and there will be a chaos, right? So tomorrow if Opera driver comes up under Selenium, then Opera driver will also have same set of functions. Okay. Now, driver.find element. You have to find the element on the page by a criteria. Suppose I select the criteria by the ID of the element. Why? Because in the Gmail page, the developer was good. He gave an ID to this input box, the ID called email. Fine. You specify the ID over here, email, and it will find the element. Now after finding the element, what it will do? You have to type something inside it, right? Okay. So if you look at the find element function, the return type of this function is of the type web element. Now what is web element? Everything on a page is a web element. Like in Qtp we say everything is an object, in Selenium we can say everything is a web element. Don't confuse this web element with web element of Qtp. Forget about Qtp for some time if you know Qtp. Right? So web element, a button is a web element, a link is a web element, a username field is a web element. Everything is categorized under web element. And web element interface, if you look at it, it's got these many features: clear, click. You can find an element under element as well. We'll talk about it later on. And for example, get location, if you want to get the location of the element, get size, get tag name, get text, is display, that is whether that element is visible or not, is enabled, selected, send key, submit. So these are the common things which you do with any element on the page, right? So what find element does is it returns you the object reference of the interface web element. Say username equals to this. You import this. Fine. And in the username you have to type something. So you write username dot send keys, say hello. So what will happen is that the send keys function in the web element, it is used to type something. If you look at the documentation, then documentation of the interface web element, then in this there is a send keys function which tells you use this method to simulate typing into an element which may set its value. So find element function returns you web element, and in web element you can type hello, right? So when you run this code, it will open Gmail and it will type hello. It will open the particular profile, right? See that hello gets written inside the username field. So if I write over here username dot clear, what this will do? This will clear the field. Fine, it will clear the contents of the field. So the clear function is again inside the web element interface. I'll talk about Ajax. I'll not talk about Ajax right now. That's used with implicit or explicit way. There is no Ajax on the Gmail homepage. Okay. The Firefox Open doesn't have a Firebug. This is because, Gaurav, I am opening a different profile. I am opening a profile test. In that profile, I never kept Firebug. Okay. I just kept this bookmark Google in it. Fine. Suppose I install Firebug in this profile. That's what I do generally. I install Firebug in the profile which I have always worked with. So always on the runtime browser I have the Firebug, so that if any error is coming up, I can directly investigate on the browser at runtime. Okay. So it's very helpful. Just a minute. Right, I restarted Firefox, and this time that particular profile should have the Firebug in it. Suppose if I run the code again, I did not close the other instances. You see that? Now in this you have Firebug out here, the current example, and the username field was also clear. First hello was written and then it was clear. So at runtime, if any error is coming with this profile, I can handle that error easily. If you go back to your web element interface, so these are all the functions. If you want to click on an element, you can click on it, or you can do anything, right? For example, there is a function called is displayed. This will tell you whether the element is visible or not. So if you write over here system.out.println username.isDisplayed, this will tell you whether the element is visible. Or there is a function called get location. If you want to get the XY coordinates, you can get the location of the element. So you can write over here username dot get location. Get location function, it returns you the object of another class which is inbuilt, which is point class. So this is how you explore the API, right? This function is returning you the object of point class, right? So somebody was asking me the architecture of Selenium. So this is how we'll gradually explore the API. We started from the WebDriver interface. Okay, in WebDriver interface, we saw that there is a function find element which is returning me a web element object. So I click on web element and I go to the web element class. In web element class, I get the function get location, which is returning you the object of the class point. So you click on point and you go to the point class. Point class has got these functions get x and get y, which will actually get you the point x and y coordinates. So if I write username.getLocation, I get the object of the point class. Point p equals to username.getLocation. You import this point class, move your cursor over it, and import the second option, org.openqa.selenium. Don't select the first option, that's on some other package. So use the second one, right? And you simply write system.out.println p.getx and p.getY. So this is how you can read the documentation and explore it. Okay, it's not necessary and it's not mandatory for you to know about all these classes. But what is important is learning or having the knack of navigating through the documentation. This is how you navigate through the documentation. And that's how I also have learned it. Right? Only thing is concept of objects, object-oriented principles, interfaces, classes, this should be very, very clear. Right? When you run this code, you go to Gmail and it types hello, then it clears it. The process was very fast, and you see that it's printed the x and y coordinates as well as true. True is printed because username.isDisplayed is true. Now sometimes some elements are hidden. For example, CSS menus. If I go to ebay.com, if I move my mouse over all categories, I get this option art. Generally by default, the option art is hidden. So if I try to use is displayed on this art web element, it will return me false. Okay, but before we do that, we need to understand how to identify the objects. I just used ID over here. In case of Gmail, I just used ID. Now if I go back to Gmail, then the developer of this website has also given name to this element. The name is again email. Okay. In Selenium, you can also identify an element using name property. The name option is also there. You can write driver.findElement by the name of the element. You can specify the name. Out here in our case, the name was email. Okay, and you can write web element username equals to driver.findElement by the name email. Okay, so there are other options as well which we'll study, XPATHS and all, everything. Okay, how can get location? You know, Vishnu, this is not, I never used it. I'm just telling you. Okay, you don't use get location practically. Why? Because if this resolution of my screen changes, then output of this function will change. If I run the same script on some other machine with some different screen location, screen size, then this function will change. So we don't use it, but I'm just telling you generally how to navigate through the API. This is how you navigate through the API, right? So username.isDisplayed, yeah, it all depends on the resolution of the screen and all, everything, and the type of screen you are having. If you're having a bigger screen, you'll get a different XY coordinates. Obviously, it returns with the XY coordinates, right? How to check for the hidden ones? That's what I was telling you. You fire the isDisplayed function on the hidden one. You find the element hidden one based on any one of the searching criteria. You first extract the web element representing that object, and then you fire the function isDisplayed. In the eBay case, it will return you false. I will tell you that. I'll talk about that. But before talking about that, you need to be aware of all the strategies which we adopt to identify elements in Selenium. Okay. One of the important thing is XPath. XPaths are quite famous. Some people think their XPaths are not good. It's not like that. There are various ways in which you can devise your XPaths. So I'll talk about that. So now, what are XPaths basically? Okay, XPaths are like you can say the address of the element. Okay, it represents the HTML address of the element. For example, I go to my website. Okay, I go to my website utpselenium.com/login. A very simple page, and I enter my email ID and password. Okay, this is the email ID and password. Now, if you look at the whole page, the whole story is starting from the very root tag called the HTML tag. So the XPath is made like this. The first tag name is HTML. Under the HTML tag, there are two tags, head and body. I am interested in the body tag because the end element which I am interested is out here. This is in the body tag. It's an input type equals to text, name is email. Right? So it's inside the body tag. Under the body tag, there are various tags: table tag, br tag, div tag. Under the body tag, I need to go inside the div tag. So you write over here div. Under this div tag, there is a form tag in which I have to go. So you write the tag name form. Then under the form tag, you have the table tag. Under the table tag, you have table body, T body tag in which you are supposed to go. Okay, so there is a table tag and under that T body tag. So I will gradually start from the root of the HTML document, and I will go till the element which I have to find. Fine. And these are the 5 under the table. There are 5 TR tags. Each TR tag represents a table row. I am actually interested in the first TR tag. I am not interested in the other ones. So I will write over here all the TR tags, they are parallel to each other. I will write like TR1. Under TR1 again I find the similar situation. I have got 4 TD tags and I am interested in the third TD tag because in my third TD tag the input box is present. Okay, so I will write over here TD3. And then there is an input tag. So there is an input tag. So this will be my XPath. Okay, and using this kind of XPath as well, you can identify elements in Selenium. Because the XPath, it will uniquely represent the element. It will be like an address of the element. But this is not a very good thing. Why? Because suppose if tomorrow the application changes and anything is introduced in between out here, then my XPath will go for a toss. I'll have to change the code and all everything. Okay, so we go for XPaths. Okay, we go for XPath, but we don't go for these kind of XPaths. These kind of XPaths are known as absolute XPaths. There are two types of XPaths: absolute XPath and partial XPaths. What do you mean by partial XPath? Find out about that. Okay, better you go to Google and you install something in your browser again. Okay, I'll go to Google. Hold on guys, just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah, Google and type download FirePath. So FirePath is additional add-on on the top of FirePath, and the installation procedure and all is same as you have to install it as an add-on inside FirePath. If you go to this link, and FirePath is nothing, it helps you to calculate the XPath very easily. You don't have to do it manually like I did. Okay, so you click on add to Firefox, you will get this option Once you add it in your Firebug, you will have this FirePath add-on installed over here. Okay, it is installed on the top of Firebug. Now if I move my mouse over any element, I get the XPath of that element. Okay. If I click on this drop down and select this option, generate absolute path, XPath, right, and I move my mouse, so I get absolute XPaths with the help of FirePath. Hold on. Okay. For example, this email field over here, this is the absolute XPath of this email field. But this XPath is not good. Okay. So you can get it directly with the help of FirePath as well. But refrain from using these kind of XPath. Don't select this option, generate absolute XPath. Then you will get partial XPaths. Okay. You just go here on the username field, click on it. You will get an XPath like this. / ID is email. This is partial XPath. / star means there is any element on the web page which is having @ID equals to email. So if I want to make it very generic, okay, the tag name for this username field is input. I can write that's the name and that's how it's done. Okay, that's how XPath is made. Partial ones you have to write /. That's the nomenclature. Right? You have to write input. There is an input tag whose ID is email. Okay. Similarly, suppose I am on the website, say in.rediff.com. Okay. On this website, I need to find the XPath of the sign-in link. Suppose. So you go here and move your mouse over the sign-in link. So this is the XPath. You can let the star remain like that or replace it with the tag name, whatever you want. So you can use these XPaths in your code. For example, I'll copy the ID equals to email. You either write star or you write the tag name. Okay, star means any tag on the page. Okay, it's like a regular expression. Okay. Star means there is any tag on the page with the ID sign-in info. For example, in our code, out here there is a span tag with the ID sign-in info. Under that there is an anchor tag A. So that's what it is doing. It's saying that there is any tag on the page star with the ID sign-in info. Under that you have the anchor tag A. Fine. So what you do, you replace that star with span. You can do that. There is a span with the ID sign-in info, and you can make it like this as well. Fine. So you can get this XPath of the Gmail. Go back to your code and write it like this: driver.find element by the XPath. Give the XPath expression, right? That is this. That there is an input type with ID email. You will get the username field again. Okay, when you run this will be successful. Can we calculate file? Yes, you can do that. You have to be a little bit proficient. Question being asked is, can we calculate partial XPaths without using Firebug? Yes, you can. You need to understand the code and the HTML. I do it like that. I use FirePaths very rarely. Okay, but with time it comes. It will never come directly. Okay. So when you run this, you have to be very careful. Can we run this class as Java application? You can use TestNg to run it. You can use Java to run it. Whatever it is. I'm just using this. When should we use XPath? It's up to you. If the developer has not given any ID and all, generally I prefer using XPaths because they are very dynamic. You can change, you can make the XPaths on any criteria and all. Many people think XPaths are evil. It's not like that. There are n number of ways to make an XPath. I'll teach that. Right. So there's no hard and fast rule written anywhere that in this situation use XPaths, in this situation use this. It's completely up to the application and the test and all. Okay. Right. So I think we will